welcome you to an open forum on the topic of grade reconfiguration. Everyone hear me properly. My name is Art DiBenedetto. I'm honored to be the Superintendent of Schools. I'm here tonight assisted by Dr. Charles McKay, my Assistant Superintendent for everything. And over here is Mr. Steve Kepnes, who is the Chief Financial Officer of the district, or School Business Administrator. Goal tonight is to share with the community plans for a reconfiguration of grade levels. If you've lived in the township, you know that this is something that has been talked about for numerous years. Last year, we talked about the possible repurposing of a school. Opposition of the community caused us to go back to the drawing board and come up with a better solution. So part of the reason we're here, we feel, is that we listen carefully. And I'll get into that tonight as we get along. This should be a rather efficient presentation. I will answer questions that people kindly email to us, and then we'll have a chance for other questions at your discretion. There are 7 reasons for consideration of a grade reconfiguration. Prior to my returning to Vernon Township, I worked here from 75 to 89, starting off as a teacher and working my way up to assistant superintendent. Well, prior to my coming back to the district 2 years ago, the district commissioned a vision plan, and the vision plan had numerous recommendations with regard to the reconfiguration of schools. At that time, it seemed that the largest priority centered on there being too many transitions of children from one school to another. Since that time, there seems to have been a leveling out of that sentiment, and the idea that all grade levels should be together as much as possible has been a more popular opinion. This plan will put all grade levels together in each building. Item 2, as I mentioned, the community response of disagreement to repurposing Cedar Mountain last year is the reason we went back to the drawing board. Board of Education, I believe, served the community well in terms of sending us on a mission to come up with a different reconfiguration plan than we had last year. Item 3 is completely interesting because, Dr. McKay, how many children are there at the Walnut Ridge School today?
As of this morning, there's 511 students at Walnut Ridge.
Where does that put us at high school?
That's more than half of the amount of students that we have at the high school. We presently have 1,012 at the high school, and next year we will go below 1,000.
So we have an interesting item to look at that we didn't have last year. And this is due to the fact that we had a bump in enrollment at the lower grade levels. We spend a lot of time talking to real estate people. We spend a lot of time meeting with people who move into the district. We've discovered that there has been a significant lessening of restrictions on remortgaged homes from banks, and the banks are beginning to release foreclosures. So we're getting an influx of new citizens. We're not going to gigantically climb in enrollment, but we're looking towards the idea of leveling off. That seems to be a positive goal. But we've had some growth at kindergarten and first grade, so much so that we added a kindergarten section last summer for this school year because of the bump we had in enrollment. So it's an interesting problem to have. Dr. McKay spends a great deal of his time chasing down people who send their children to other schools, and he explains to them the advantages of our system, and he has personally achieved a significant turnaround of people who send their children to other schools.
One of the things that happened with the vision plan, and that was the Adams study. For those of you who have been in the district for 4 or 5 years, the Adams study was commissioned by the Board of Education. Along with the Adams study came a demographic study. And the demographic study was completed in 2012 by Dr. Brick. And the demographic study was reported out to the Board of Education in 2013, and then 2014. And the prediction was that the continued decline of enrollment. So just so everybody's aware of where we are and where we're going, in 2006, 2007, 10 years ago, our district had 1,700 more students than it has today. So there was a significant decade of losing students. And we were losing about 130 students per year until this last year. During this last year, we've gained students back, and we've gained it back in a couple of places. One is in 6th grade into 7th grade. Many of them are choosing not to go to the charter school, but to stay with us because of some of the new programs that are over at Clement. And then another area where we lost students was 8th grade into 9th grade. And of course, that group of students were either choosing the Rotec, or choosing Hope John, or choosing Blair. And those numbers are way down as well, so we're keeping our students. So the interesting demographic fact is that the 8th grade going into the high school will be larger than most of the classes in the high school, and still we're going to be under 1,000.
Item 4 has to do with the geographical location of the current Board of Education office. Mr. Kempis, Dr. McKay, and myself try to be actively engaged in the schools. The geographical location of the board office is not conducive to a constant presence in the schools. All of us do more than one job. Dr. McKay does all personnel work in the district. I'm also the director of special services. We need to be in the buildings, and the geographical location of the board office does not enable that as much as we would like to. Item 5 I already mentioned. We had a 780 family survey done last summer. First time we saw a good number of people lessening the need as a parent need of transition and having the idea of all the classes together be a majority. Item 6 is the most important reason for reconfiguration. There are numerous educational initiatives going on, some which were started a few years ago, others which are new. The first one centers on the idea of the house model. Those of you with young children may know that the house model centers on the idea that a primary school classroom, let's say grade 3 or 4, has a situation where there are 2 teachers. One is teaching mathematics and science, the other teaches social studies and literature or literacy, and the teachers have the ability to specialize. Okay? So what we're trying to do here is our intent here is to expand the house model to grade 2, so that grades 2, 3, 4, and 5 all have the same manner in which curriculum is implemented. Second item has to do with the classroom engagement model. Research is telling us very specifically that a traditional classroom of rows of students is not the best manner in which to engage students born in recent years. They're learning differently, they're technologically connected. So we have a situation where we are trying to encourage the idea of classrooms looking different with the purpose of student engagement as part of the geographical setup of each and every classroom. We have financial concerns too, okay? Our budget is healthy. It supports a very positive education. Our staff members do not want for a great deal. However, we've been overfunded by the state of New Jersey for numerous years in terms of state aid. And when I say overfunded, we've been funded at a rate of approximately 170% of what our formula states. And I don't believe that that's going to continue. So we are looking for every financial efficiency that we can get our hands on. And the reconfiguration does save us a small amount of money, but at this point in time, each and every penny is vital. Item 7 relates to that because the board will have the ability to liquidate one or two of the properties that it owns, one being an office on Route 94, which originally housed a child study team when it was built, and the second is the board office itself, which is a great historical building that is in desperate need of some repair. I used the Q&A in order to get a comfort level with all of this on the part of those people who tend to worry about things that are not related to what we're doing. So the first question that I put forth has to do with, is there a recommendation for grade 8 to go to the high school? That is not a recommendation. That has been withdrawn, again, due to the fact that the community did not feel that that was an appropriate thing to do. At one time, the 8th grade did go to high school. I was the 8th grade coordinator at that time, and I saw it work very well. However, the Board of Education is not interested in having its clientele be angry in terms of a majority. The 780 family survey we gave out overwhelmingly did not support 8th grade going to high school. We're not going to argue with it. Will some students from 8th grade go to the high school? It is possible, and I need to articulate this better than I did in the past. Not necessarily this year coming up, but as our 8th graders take high school courses, our 7th graders will be taking 8th grade courses. 8th graders can get credit. There may be students taking an advanced course in grade 8 that cannot bring a high school teacher down for 1 or 2 kids. So you may have a situation where a handful of students will be invited to go to the high school. But for the most part, all the Algebra 1, all the foreign language, world language stuff, the teachers from the high school will come to Glen Meadow. Item 2. Will any of the 6 buildings not have students? All the buildings will have students. They will just be reconfigured. Item 3, will the district office be relocated? The answer to that obviously is yes. The district office will be moved to the building that has the least number of students. What would the recommendation for reconfiguration be? Okay, this has been on the website. I don't think I need to spend a great deal of time on it. But right now, Walnut Ridge would maintain the preschool program, special ed, regular ed, and integrated. The Board of Education office would move to the Walnut Ridge School. Cedar Mountain would house grades K-1. Rolling Hills would house grades 2 and 3. Lounsberry Hollow would house 4 and 5. Glen Meadow would increase in size because it would be a true middle school environment housing grades 6, 7, and 8. And the high school would remain the same. I'm going to go off the chart of course here. A number of people emailed me with the idea that why don't we have the kindergarten and first grade go to Rolling Hills? A legitimate question. The classrooms at Walnut Ridge and the classrooms at Rolling Hills are about 800 square feet each. The classrooms at Cedar Mountain are approximately 150 to 200 square feet larger. Dr. McKay, can you give us 30 seconds on the kindergarten environment, sir?
Sure. What we're going to try to do with kindergarten, if this is approved by the board, we're going to try to make sure that the kindergarten space is used completely. And setting up the classrooms, we'd like to set up maker stations in each of the classrooms. So the idea simply is, like we're doing in other buildings where we've created maker spaces, and those of you that have been to high school, you see the big maker spaces. What we're looking for is that same environment that you would find in a media center in which the children are creating and having space to do that. So the goal is to get them into these bigger classrooms so that they're able to do that. So the tables will be set up, maker stations will be set up for them.
When I served as principal at Rolling Hill School. It was a K-4 building at the time. The kindergarten classrooms thrived, but they were very, very crowded. Interestingly, in my early days as an administrator in Vernon Township, there was no room for kindergartens, and they were housed in firehouses. There were still some teachers who remember when kindergarten classes were in firehouses. Each administrator was assigned a firehouse and had to visit it on a constant basis. Some of the firehouse rooms were gigantic, some were tiny. It was a very interesting thing. It demonstrated to me that our kindergarten population, they thrive, but a bigger space is something that if we can satisfy is very positive. Other questions I got centered on 5th grade. Where would the 5th grade students be tiered in terms of buses? Okay? If Lounsberry Hollow is a 4th and 5th grade building, when will those children arrive at school? And it was decided so as to not have 4th grade students riding with middle school students. We decided to put the 5th grade with what we call the 3rd tier. That has the high school is tier 1, that would not change. The middle school, Glen Meadow, 6, 7, and 8 is tier 2, that would not change. We have less buses when we need that number of students, obviously. Again, financial savings. But the 3rd tier would be K-5. Okay, so the 5th graders would go with the group that comes in a little later. Okay, and there would be a very slight adjustment in time as we plan it. I need you to understand, I have told my people, please don't spend a lot of time doing planning work on this until the Board of Education approves it, because time is not something we have to waste. So a lot of the stuff that we put forth in terms of transportation is speculation. But there's a chance we could have 5 or 6 lesser middle school routes and 3 or 4 K-5 routes, and save someone. Steve, an average route of transportation? Steve, still here?
Yes, anywhere from 20,000 to 40,000, depending on the length of the route.
So if we save 2 routes, we save anywhere from $40,000 to $80,000. Ladies and gentlemen, we chip away financially. We save pennies wherever we can, with the idea that we need to provide a thorough and efficient education. The numbers change, but not significantly. Obviously, Walnut Ridge goes to that maximum number that Dr. McKay expressed. And interestingly, it's up 9 since I put this PowerPoint together.
That's right.
There would be approximately 85 preschool students at the Walnut Ridge School. Cedar Mountain would go from about 319 to 420. Rolling Hills from 331 to about 400. Lounsberry Hollow would remain almost the same. Glen Meadow would see a jump from 5 and change to 750. Please understand, I was in district when Glen Meadow was built. The day Glen Meadow opened, it housed 5 through 8 on one floor and K-4 on another floor. Okay, it has held many, many more students than that number there at various times, including times when it was a middle school.
The capacity numbers for each of the buildings, for Cedar Mountain, full capacity is 563. For Rolling Hills, it's 615. Lounsberry Hollow, 680. Glen Meadow, 877. And full capacity at the high school would be approximately 1,432. And that again is from this study done by Dr.
And how many are Walnut Ridge?
Walnut Ridge are after
Now,
It is good.
those are good numbers. Where'd you get those?
Dr. McKay, quick question. Is your 503 number, does that include the 82 currently?
Yes, sir.
It's half, but they're only students a couple hours a day, right?
No, not all of them. Many are full day because of special ed and integration programs. Good question.
Not Mr. Reilly?
Yes, it is, sir.
Yes, sir.
You know, I'm watching your numbers.
How are you?
Good.
In Glen Meadow Home, grades 6, 7, and 8. Last year, if you attended board meetings when we were talking about repurposing, we did a full presentation on the outlay of each school, with the number of classrooms, how many they hold, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have done that, redone that study for Glen Meadow. Dr. Anderson has assured me that there are plenty of classrooms available. We even have some backup. Right now, the tech department uses 3 or 4 classrooms. We would not even have to abandon those classrooms at this particular point in time. So we can comfortably hold grades 6, 7, and 8 at the Glen Meadow School, if this is something that the Board of Education approves.
Although if we have to move tech, we will.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm asking the board to make a decision on this in February so that we can do the logistics of planning, moving. It's not an overwhelming task, it's something we can definitely do. But we are looking for a February decision on this. We presented this a number of times at Board of Education meetings. It's been in the newspaper, we've had excellent coverage from our friend from New Jersey Herald, Mr. Eric. It's been on the website. I'm very honored that people actually email me questions. I provided them with specific answers. I'm going to go over a few more of those. I got some duties in terms of recommendations. We need to be able to smile. So the person who said that I should buy the children's school next door, that is a tough one. If we went to the State Department of Education and said we wanted to buy another school, they might hang us, given our own situation in recent years. So we are not looking at expanding that by any means. Someone asked would we have to do renovations at Walnut Ridge to put offices in. The answer is absolutely no. There are 32 classrooms in Walnut Ridge, plenty of office space, and plenty of room for preschool. Someone asked about selling the Route 94 building, which is currently houses the Historical Society. We're not looking to leave the Historical Society high and dry. We have a good relationship with them. We will continue to provide them space. They are certainly should be able to sell the 94 building next to Taco Bell. We would definitely allow them to use the board office. If by some unusual circumstance we were able to sell both buildings, we still have room for it. I'm meeting with the Historical Society people tomorrow to discuss this. Someone asked if there would be a savings from moving out of the board office, and the savings is minute. It would only be utilities, things like that. There's no great savings to that. It is an interesting piece of property, and if the economic trend continues to loosen up a little, I can't speak intelligently about the potential of selling that building, but there are some potential uses for it. Someone asked, a number of people asked, why not put the preschool at the high school, which is something I would love to do because it would be a natural program for our high school students who have childcare and teaching of childhood as a future. But preschool requirements, classrooms must have a toilet system. The high school does not have a basement, it's on a slab. So putting a preschool at the high school means approximately $10,000 to $12,000 of plumbing in each room that the preschool would use, and that is not something we are any manner in which we could do. Yes, sir.
That $10,000 to $12,000 number is outrageous, because we use flush systems now for situations like that, where there's no jackhammering, nothing's required. It is quite literally a $1,000 unit that goes in each classroom, so.
Sorry, the sinks and toilets would cost more than $1,000, wouldn't
The
it?
pump system, the toilet and the pump is actually $1,000.
I mean, they can learn more about
That is an exact number.
Excuse me? I do have a question. With all due respect,
Let me give you the mic so people can hear you.
with all due respect, is it gonna really be cheaper to reconfigure all of this and move everything that has to get moved, as opposed to putting pre-K in high school? And the reason I ask is because I have 20 years plus in this industry doing this type of stuff, and it's expensive to move people around. And do all this work, plus you only have a very short amount of time. Have you guys thought about that with your resources?
A, we have plenty of time. B, the resources we need are essentially, in terms of planning, it's brain work. In terms of lifting things, we have personnel to do that. I don't intend to hire a moving company. I don't intend to have a consultant come in and tell us what to do. We've been through many building projects. I've been through 5 school expansions in my career. I don't think too many superintendents can say that. We're not looking at any costs for reconstruction of any of the areas. It's essentially picking things up and moving them. That's something that's well within our ability to do.
I have to ask another question, I'm sorry. With all due respect. Okay, assuming you have plenty of time to do this, who's gonna do it?
Our people do. We have a maintenance staff and a custodial staff.
I understand that. It's a huge undertaking, and you can't really start anything physical with the kids still in school.
Indeed. When Walnut Ridge got too big originally, remember Walnut Ridge was built in what year, sir? 57?
Yeah, it was designed in 58. The interesting thing about Walnut Ridge was when Walnut Ridge was designed, it was designed in an X shape. And in 1958, the board decided to remove one of the parts of it. So the reason why Walnut Ridge looks the way it does is that it's only the original part of the building was supposed to look like this, and it was supposed to be closer to the road, and then have a back area. They moved it back, they removed this wing, and they left that. And I don't know if you've ever looked at Walnut Ridge, but then there's 2 additions on top of that original wing. So there's that library rollout part, you can see it, right? And then there's another piece right at the end where they put 4 more classrooms. So if you walk down the hallway in Walnut Ridge, it's like a giant bowling alley, right? It's all one.
My understanding of when Rolling Hills was built, the students at Walnut Ridge literally moved over a weekend. On Friday, they packed their stuff up. On the weekend, they moved it. And next Monday, the kids were in the other school. I'm not here to argue with you. The idea of it being a major project is not something that I'm concerned about at all. It's doable. We have an entire summer to prepare the movies.
Okay, I have another question. You said you're going to keep the classrooms at Walnut Ridge's offices. So you're going to have people walking through the preschool. Isn't that a safety concern? Or are you going to put in another safety door, which is going to cost a lot of money?
No, I'm not putting a safety door in. The offices of every school have people walking through them. We have an ability to put the preschool in a part of the building that's well protected or far away from any office situation. And I have to say, you will have a principal, you will have 3 administrators. Mr. Kepnes is a principal. Dr. McKay has more certifications, or almost certifications, than most people alive. I have been a principal, a superintendent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have 4 administrators in the building. I am not concerned about student safety.
You're not concerned.
No, ma'am.
You're not concerned. That's a big
So are you going, so if I have,
For someone who would have a preschooler in there, I would not want people walking through my daughter's preschool.
I agree with you 100%.
So how are you going to fix that without putting a safety door in? Are you gonna move the classrooms? Because then if you move the classrooms, you have to put bathrooms in, right? You said you couldn't move to the high school because they need bathrooms.
I have told you, I have not done planning work yet because.
So no planning work has been done.
Excuse me, I have not done planning work yet because I have not had board approval of this.
So how can the board approve something if you have no plan?
I have.
It makes no
plans.
sense.
If I have questions tonight that I don't have an answer to, I will find it out.
I have two questions. You're saying that no one's gonna get laid off, you're saying that nobody's getting laid off, nobody's gonna lose their jobs. This is heavily dependent on people retiring, right? You have a lot of positions that you're heavily dependent on people retiring. What if they don't? Now you're talking about whatever minimal cost savings that the town would have are no longer existent, unless you're going to then lay people off, which at 2 times in 2 different instances, you said that people would not be laid off.
No
And
one's
I
going to
read
get laid
in
off for this.
And I read in the New Jersey Herald, your quote, saying that you can no longer make that guarantee. You can no longer make that guarantee.
That was with the previous alignment. That was with the
2016, you said you could not make a guarantee that people would not,
Teachers would not be laid off.
Oh, I said very specifically, it's in writing. No one will be laid off because of this. It's in writing. I said it from the get-go. I never said that I couldn't guarantee it. I said that all teachers will maintain employment.
April
I said
2016,
it's in
the New
writing.
Jersey Herald, you're quoted
I
as
have not
saying
interrupted you.
teachers will
I
be
have
laid
not
off.
interrupted you. I would beg you to say.
The press release that you're referring to was from last spring, and that was after the 8th grade piece fell through. And the idea simply was that if we kept everything the same way, then we were going to struggle with that. But Mr. D has promised with the new reconfiguration that no one will be laid off. And he has put it in writing.
All right, my follow-up question is,
Please look at number 7. Will any staff member lose a job due to the reconfiguration of grades? No. Retention of jobs is based on performance, enrollment, and retirements. Reconfiguration has no bearing.
Second question?
yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
You're saying there's going to be no cost whatsoever to move the Board of Education from one building to the next, no cost whatsoever to move to move kindergartens and first graders into the other school, right, into Cedar Mountain. You're also not taking into account all the wonderful work and money that was put into Walnut Ridge, right? That school has never looked better,
Right.
right? You have the peaceful playgrounds, you have the murals and all that. These kids also need age-appropriate playgrounds. The playgrounds that are at Cedar Mountain are not necessarily age-appropriate for them. Are we all just going to show up one day and put in the back trunk of the playground and move it?
The age-appropriate playground. The preschool playground will be made out, obviously. The difference between first grade students at Walnut Ridge and second grade students at Cedar Mountain, I don't see that as a gigantic difference in chronological age. I believe that the playgrounds that were built and the items that were built will be appropriate for community use and for the age-appropriate kids in each building. I don't believe that it's a gigantic loss that causes any angst for children or adults if the kids make the move from a K-1 environment to what is a 2, 3, 4 environment. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. If the 4th grade is now moving up to Lounsberry, there is no playground there. So these current 3rd graders now are kind of like losing a year of being kids in elementary and recess. Like there is no playground. Is there anything being done about that, or?
If that is correct, then we would have to do something about that. That's a good point. Thank you.
Shannon?
I'm curious, since we're starting to see an increase.
Shannon Irish is one of our teachers of the year, and she doesn't need money.
Since you're seeing an increase,
Right.
at least at elementary school,
Right.
Walnut Ridge level, if that continues to be a trend, we're not losing students or we start gaining students again, when they all get to the Glen Meadow 6, 7, 8, is there going to be enough room for that? Meaning,
Yes.
what is your 7 to 10 year
Yeah.
vision on?
And Shannon, that's the big one. Okay, so let's look at the gestalt just for a minute. We don't want to lose a building, right? We have a loss of 2,000 students, but we don't want to lose the building. So we're looking at these peripheral buildings, if you will, and trying to keep our population within the 6 buildings so that growth is possible. Right? And the demographic studies that we have show this decline, but we have leveled. We've leveled because of the reasons I told you before. We've also leveled because houses are starting to sell. And the idea simply is to put the students in a place where there'll be enough space for some more growth. See where that is. And know this, that the grade levels where we're really struggling with our numbers are in grades 2, 3, and 4 next year. Because you're at 188, 202, and 212. If we can, as we watch those students go through, we will have enough space as they go through. And if the next group is larger, things will be okay. So when you're talking about 10 years, it's really about that. And the good, again, there is good news. And the good news is that the 8th grade class this year, if we keep them, and they don't head to these other places, will be the first time in probably 8 or 9 years in which the 8th grade class coming in is close to the graduating class.
We're not looking at a gigantic growth situation. We're very hopeful of a leveling off. The young lady over here will make a point about the door and the preschool. I respect what you said, and I would say this. If we change the building tomorrow, we save $281,000, and a proper investment of some of that money would be what you're talking about if that's a necessity. I respect it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am, back.
Closing the building, you're saying, would that be closing the board office?
Excuse me?
The building you're talking about closing would be the board office, correct?
Yes.
And that $280-some-odd thousand would be with the sale of the board office, correct?
No, that's a good point. Let me delineate this for you.
We can't count on a sale that we don't have.
Yeah, that's
Well, and
not
that's my
depending on
question,
that
because
role.
the board office has no well.
Right.
And there is no water going to the board office.
We understand legally, we know that well.
It's really not well there. For lack of a better word.
It shares its well with the fire department. and
Which has an unwritten agreement.
We are not dependent upon selling the board office. Please don't get that as an impression. The savings from changing or reconfiguring would be followed. Currently, 2 day custodians at Walnut Ridge, we would only need 1. No one loses a job because another custodian retired, the second custodian replaces the retiree. 9 custodians, 2 full-time, we only need 1 full-time. It's not a necessity. Same thing, we have a situation of retirements, we have a situation where the person goes into the job. Secretaries, we have 3 full-time at Walnut Ridge. 1 would be needed at Glen Meadow for the additional enrollment. One would remain at Walnut Ridge, and one would we have a retiree coming up at the Rolling Hill School. That person would be retirement. Now, we essentially are eliminating, not replacing some of the retirement positions, and it comes to a savings of approximately $181,000. If we need to build a door, that gives us an end of money to utilize to make sure that children and parents feel safe. There are other savings that are not counted here, and I'm not talking about selling any buildings. We already mentioned, Mr. Pepis explained that if we have less bus routes, we will have a savings. Again, that will be important to us. We spend about $19,000 per student in our district, okay? It's not the highest in the county, but it's very close to the highest in the county. We are looking for efficiency. The board has lowered the budget without costing programs for a number of years consecutive years. If you know what we've done at the high school and at the middle school, you know we increased a lot of programs. We did that at no cost, and we do that in a manner that is efficient because we utilize our retirements carefully. We have, at first this year, we did not have a significant number of retirements. That is changing. We have, over the last few weeks, we've have a few more announcements, and this will help us. We do a budget that's, Steve, what is the budget do, sir?
About $66.5 million.
And when do we have to give it to the state?
It has to be approved to the county by the end of March.
At this particular point in time, we're still $2 million over our goal of breaking even with last year as we design next year's budget. So we have our work cut out for us.
Excuse me. First time.
Sorry, she has the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. My bad.
Would you mind describing what the plan, if it's already happened already, what it would look like for the 8th graders who will be going to the high school for those classes? Is it like a half day, or, and will they be mixed in with the high schoolers or a separate classroom?
Again, please remember what I said. I tried to articulate this in an improved fashion because I don't believe I did a good job of it at the 2 board meetings, okay? I don't envision any 8th graders going to the high school this year.
No, I meant that just for the honors classes.
I don't anticipate that happening until 2 years down the road. When one of our goals is to make sure that a student who is deserving gets a proper individualized program. So if you have a student who borders on being a savant, and that kid needs special treatment, we're going to put that kid in high school, even if he's an 8th grade kid. We're going to put him up first thing in the morning, we're going to get him back, we're going to bus him back as soon as his class or her class are done. And I did not do a good job of explaining that.
We're talking about a very small percentage. We'll talk about what it would look like. In 8th grade presently, if a child is taking Algebra 1, in the past, he took Algebra 1, then took Algebra 2 in 9th grade, and then moved on with the advancement. He was not getting credit for Algebra 1 with high school credits. So we changed that this year. So a student who's taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade is actually starting his high school transcript in 8th grade. So the point would be that he can take that and a world language, and there's 2 world languages offered in 8th grade, and walk away with 10 credits with his high school transcript, or her high school transcript, and they go to the high school. There are some schools, and we may be in the future, some of them, who identify some of those 8th grade students before they ever get to Algebra 1 as worthy of, or have the ability to, take Algebra 1 in 7th grade and go to geometry in 8th grade because of the requirements from competitive schools about advanced mathematics and science. We added a course, a actual class in the high school, so there's now 9 periods in a day to try to make that happen, to freed that up. So, and then we increase the amount of credits that we expect from our students to graduate from high school, which helps with our rating and helps, the idea of making it a more competitive school. So all those things are in place. What Mr. D is talking about is the possibility of a few of those students in 7th grade who take that Algebra 1, and then are we going to offer geometry to 4 students? No, we may move them to the high school to take that first thing in the morning, and then back down. And again, it's just to try to give an edge to those competitive students. It's more of an educational thing than it would be this transportation thing.
The month before we made the reconfiguration proposal, we put forth to the Board of Education and the audience of the board meeting new initiatives for the future. We put forth the idea that if a student and a family have identified the direction the student wants to go, we need to be able to do it in a non-traditional manner. That means a regular education student could essentially have an individual student plan, even though they're not classified, an IEP, with the idea that we will chase the goal that the student and the child have identified as being vital to their lives. That could mean, it sounds silly, but it could mean in 3 years that a student can graduate Vernon Township High School with an associate's degree as well as a high school diploma. That's where we're setting our goals. At a third of the cost it would cost you to send that young person.
But in order to do that, there's groundwork that has to happen in 8th grade. It's essential that you have to set that up first.
I'm here for a couple of different reasons, so I'm not gonna, I have a husband who works in the district, and I have a child who I chose to send to this district. So speaking on behalf of my husband, and no teachers losing their job, there are 5 teachers in this school who coach up at the high school.
Yes.
So when you do your
She's
reconfiguration,
aware of that.
they're either gonna lose a
Give you
job,
an answer immediately.
or they're gonna leave a district that they've been in for over 20 years.
Right, I have it handled. We are working on that, there's no doubt about it. I'm well aware of the 5 coaches. We value what they do. When I was principal here in this building, we made sure that their schedule was set, as you well know, to make sure that they could get to high school. And we will continue to do that in the reconfiguration because these people are valuable.
And I mean, again, I have a concern for my daughter too, which is why I'm here. I'm
Right.
just making it clear. She's in 4th grade now.
She's dealing with a transition and a transition.
Perhaps.
Yes, ma'am.
It sounds like Walnut Ridge seems to be the primary school that we're concerned about. The max number was 503. Is that the max number of students or the classrooms needed to house the students?
No, that's the number, right now. Walnut Ridge has, as Dr. McKay said, 512 students. Some of them are half day, okay? Most of them are full day. That involves full day preschool, involves kindergarten, involves first grade.
And that's my next question. How many preschools are housed in that?
There are 4 preschool classrooms right now.
And the demographics of them, do they all include children with IEPs, every single one of them?
Yes, there's some of them are self-contained special ed classes with just special ed children. Some of them are integrated classrooms with special ed children and regular ed children.
But they all have IEP children or classified students in that, so I'm asking.
To the best of my knowledge, yes, but if I'm not going to swear to that 100%.
The preschool presently has 87 students.
So how many classrooms do you think that preschool? More classrooms?
But some of them are half day. Okay, and I'm not 100% sure if all the half day classrooms have special ed and integrated.
Yes.
Check.
That's the number, and it's been a really long time. I was living in Long Beach when I first got hired.
Do you want me to get the mic?
Years ago. And the reason I got hired was that was the influx where we had 500 students in one class, one graduating class. So it was half day kindergarten, so that was 250 right there. Then the other class that was right before them was about the same number. So you're talking about another 500 or 400, let's say. That's 650 kids right there. But that's saying that there's a max of 503. So I don't understand how the change, it seems like a big number changed from that time 20 years ago.
Right, when the Adams study came out, and thank you for your 22 years of service. Look good. When that study came out, it took into consideration the need of the special ed students and space. So it was a different dynamic maybe than it was 22 years ago. But we did have buildings that were over capacity at a certain point in our history. So it may have been that situation. I have the numbers from 10 years ago, and like I said, we were at almost 5,000 students from 2006 to 2007, and we're down approximately 1,800 students in that 10-year period.
There's no difficulty with us housing 3,100 students. It's just not.
I don't think so. So my question pertains to the busing. How many routes are we actually going to save? Do we know? On how, you said, we're going to save money in busing. So we really don't know.
We're hoping for.
Yeah. So you're going to cut 3 routes?
No, we're hoping for about 3 to 5, we're hoping for about $100,000 to save.
Okay, $100,000 in savings. Now, how, does that mean that our kids are going to be on the bus longer?
Some kids might be on slightly longer yet.
Approximately?
Middle school, there are middle school groups that may go to 5 to 10 minutes longer, yes.
5 to 10 minutes longer. Okay.
But the younger ones are going to be on 43 school stuff.
So we are going to see the kids on the bus a little bit longer, just to clarify. $100,000 savings.
Yeah, and then the drop out to get to the preschool.
Right, yes, okay.
Paul, the idea with Mr. Mealy, sorry.
That's okay. We know each other a long time.
I know. The idea of the bus routes would be something like this, and it sounds like being quoted, but this is the idea we're talking about. where say there's 3 different bus routes coming in at the same time for that K-12. One would go to one school, one would go to the other school, and you would stagger so that the students weren't sitting there for 2 stops with, 2 schools before they got to the
Correct, yeah, no, I understand.
And if it's oppressive, we're not going to do it.
Now,
We're not interested in having little kids on bus home. We're looking at a potential change, obviously with only busing 3 grades on tier 2, we have the potential to do less routes.
what about $100,000 savings overall?
That would be a goal.
So the main goal to this whole reconfiguration is just about savings, correct?
No, I just gave 7 reasons why that was one of them.
But if everything's functioning now, why are we even entertaining it, I guess? Why are we even entertaining this? If everything's functioning right now, the wheels rolling, right? Everybody's pretty comfortable in their schools. And
Everybody's comfortable, and everybody's real comfortable in their comfort zone. And we're trying to make changes, especially changes that have to do with the way children are taught.
Okay.
Kids born in this century are learning differently than when we were kids. And I don't know if anyone can argue that. Okay? It's a technologically rich generation. Why are we spending a lot of money making sure that every student in the district from grade 4 through grade 12 next year has a one-on-one device? Because that's the way kids are learning. Okay? We're working hard to satisfy them. Okay? Everybody is comfortable. That is true. Change hurts. That is true. If we don't change, we're going to fall behind. We cannot afford to fall behind. Yes, ma'am.
I have 2 children in kindergarten right now who absolutely adore Walnut Ridge. We moved here because of that building. And my concern is that when they move, and I know there has to be change, I'm not arguing that, the warmth of that building, the warmth of Mrs. Gephardt, Mr. Joseph's library, I'm a tear-jerker. It looks so awesome. And I just want, for that, the building that we go to be the same. That's all.
Remember, Mr. Joseph will be moving with the students. Remember, and I learned this the hard way last year. I went to the Cedar Mountain School and said I wanted to repurpose it, which meant that everybody would be leaving. And what I discovered there was pretty interesting. I discovered a very loving, caring faculty. I discovered a building that is appropriately designed for young children, okay? And I learned that it was a hard lesson to me, okay? Because I was looking at efficiency. I was looking at the idea of a district of 5,000 with 6 schools probably doesn't need 6 schools with 3,000. Okay? But let me tell you, Cedar Mountain is a dynamic environment. And remember, your people that the children are used to are going there too. Mr. D? Yes, sir.
With regards to the busing, my 4th grader gets on the bus at Cedar Mountain at 3:30. By the time they pick up the kids at Walnut Ridge and she gets home, and she is the first stop on our route in Highland Lakes, it is almost 10 after 4. That's 40 minutes on a bus. And if we had another school, you're looking at least another 10 to 15 minutes. So now I'm putting my kid on the bus for almost an hour. She's not getting home until almost 20 after 4 or 4:30. And like I said, my kid is the first one off the bus. What about those kids in Cliffwood Lake who now aren't getting off the bus till 20 to 5?
And I believe I just made the statement that we have a situation where kids are going to be on the bus too long. We're not going to make our goal of saving $100,000, and we'll add the route back. Because that's the right thing to do. Yes, sir.
How, if at all, will reconfiguration change the average class size?
Average class size will not change, sir. We're going to have the same number of kids, hopefully a few more. We're going to have the same number of teaching staff members. I asked the principals a month ago, what are the numbers of homerooms we have at each grade level? We're budgeting for that, okay? If we have to add, as we did this year at Walnut Ridge for kindergarten, we'll do it. But the class size will not be affected, sir.
Okay, I guess my concern is, and actually I brought this up
allowed to make the same comment 3 years later.
The math for me, like, doesn't add, I know you have the number of total students, but like, I know for me and probably a lot of parents, I like to see classroom. So like, Rolling Hills, for example, if you pulled fourth grade, that's 6 classrooms. If you took the second and third from Cedar Mountain, how would they fit within those 6 classrooms? Or are you gonna have to pull specials
No.
and use the art room?
No,
and-
absolutely not. The class, this is on the website.
Okay.
This gives a map of each building. It gives you the number of homes. You can literally count the number of homes and the number that we need and the number of rooms in the building. At no point, any place in the district, are we have a shortage of rooms. Cedar Mountain has 28 rooms. You're talking about 20 homes. Rolling Hills has more classrooms. Walnut Ridge has 32 classrooms, less square footage than Cedar Mountain, but more classrooms because the classrooms are smaller. The classrooms at Cedar Mountain tend to be close to 1,000 square feet each. So you're in a situation, and you can look at this, I mean, it's not a secret, but there's no problem with the number of rooms we have. Art teachers are not going to be on cars. It's just not going to happen.
I will look at that. I should have looked at it for me. I don't get the math, though. It's like pretty simple. I'm like 6 out, and then I don't understand how you put those in. And also, too, like, will there be enough LD classrooms? Because right now, they use those little DE in between.
Right now, if you go to some of the schools, the LLD classes, the pull-out resource classes have full-size classrooms. That is something that I understand. The principals, having no need for room efficiency, have allowed small classes to be in large environments.
I'm sorry, I meant resource. I meant resource pull-out. I just wanted to clarify that. Because LD
A pull-out resource room does not need a full-size classroom. There are 9 at most 10 kids in it. They do not need a full classroom. Yes.
Thank you. There's many reasons to love Lounsberry, and one of the reasons is that we offer a lot of opportunities for students to express their interests and passions in after-school programs. So I'm just hoping that that's still a consideration, that that's still going to be offered because of the busing situation, and that they just thrive. I can think of like 12 activities right off the top of my head that we've really worked hard for the kids to take part in and interest in. It's just such a valuable thing, you know, outside of their academic school day.
We did an analysis of what we call stipend positions. We can cover those today. We'll have more information on that. Once if the board approves this, that's something you're going to get more information on. Good question.
Because you're making Walnut Ridge and every school, like, different, like, are you going to be able to add preschool classes to?
Great question. The question is, would I add preschool classes? The answer is, I would add preschool classes. There are other considerations. I can't go hire 2 more teachers and not be able to pay for them. So the answer is, I would love to expand this preschool program. I don't know the ability to do that.
My concern with doing that is, and it might not be a concern of other people, but they have their businesses in town. Nobody's thinking about us. We're 3 business people here that work at preschools, and it's hurting us.
And I have board members who believe exactly what you're saying as being vital, so that's a discussion we'll have. Thank you.
Just to point out.
Thank you.
Since the 34th grade is coming to Lounsberry, are we still going to provide security for Lounsberry School?
Absolutely.
Okay, and are they redoing any of the security policy and procedures, updating any of that at this time? Updating some of the security?
The county, through the state police, all of the county will be on one plan in the very near future. We've hammered this out. I've attended more security meetings as a superintendent than I did regular meetings, but it's a vital thing. So all of the towns are going to use the same language. All of the towns are going to have the same procedures, because God forbid there's an emergency. You're going to have Hardison police here, you're going to have state police here, you're going to have Vernon police here, you're going to have Warwick police here. So we're working on that. We hired a new security director with 28 years of of state police experience. He finished as a captain. He was in charge of security of the building that housed all fingerprint records in the state of New Jersey before they were digitized and all that stuff.
Is the board working on that now? I know there's other issues going on here. Are they working on
The board does not work on the security plan. The state police work on that. They tell us what we have to do. So you will see significant, that'll all be, it's interesting. They're urging us to have a parent meeting because the security plan, I'm getting off the subject, but real quick, because it's vital. God forbid there's a situation in Lounsberry. Lounsberry parents will not be allowed to come to Lounsberry. You would have to pick up your kids at Walkill Valley High School. That's the kind of planning they're doing. It's a long explanation, but we're spending hours and hours and hours on it.
I'm sorry, I have another 2 questions. I said I have a daughter in Walnut Ridge. I also have a daughter in Cedar Mountain. So I have 2 questions, one pertaining to Walnut Ridge, one to Cedar Mountain. Cedar Mountain, I know there's 28 rooms, but by my calculations, if you add in music, art, computer lab, a resource room, an LLD room, an ABA, Title I, a reading specialist, that comes up to 31 rooms. So we're short.
I don't need full classrooms for all those things. Title I teacher works with a couple of kids. They don't need a regular classroom.
Okay, so classrooms don't matter. Okay. So then my second set of questions goes to preschool. Will preschool have a gym, art, music like they do
Great
now?
question. Thank you for bringing that up. Preschool will have a music teacher. Preschool will have a gym teacher, physical education. I'm not sure about the art teacher yet, and that is because so much of the preschool experience involves art. I'm not sure of the need for that. I will let the art teachers talk me into why we need that.
And will they have a library as well?
Yes,
Since
they will have
the
a-
new library will stay as is? And Spanish and computers will be as is in that for?
You're asking me if preschool will have Spanish.
I mean, because that's what people are signing up for now. That's what they're used to. That's why we pay money to go there. So I'm just curious if that will stay the same or will that change?
Chuck, I need your help on that one. I can't answer.
All the programs will stay basically the same. And for those people that are saying, well, that's impossible because you're moving the staff elsewhere, many of our staff move between buildings. And that's happening more and more as we do the transitions the way we've done. So there are teachers that spend the day, they work in one building and then another building, or they work a schedule where they work in 3 or 4 buildings. Think of our spring teacher who works in 4 buildings. So that would be the model that we would use.
Got a few more minutes?
Will preschool still have a nurse?
Yes. Good question. Preschool will have a nurse.
We added nurse? No, we haven't. What about nurse? We haven't.
So the board sent out that survey, and where the community came overwhelmingly said they do not want 8th graders into high school, correct? And that was great that the board listened, we're working with that, wonderful. How about we send another survey out to see how the community feels about this new projected plan, as opposed to like we were discussing maybe putting preschool into the high school, and with a very small or whatever educated guess to see how much it actually would cost to add key backgrounds.
Thank you. If the board wants to do a survey before they make a final decision, I will respect that. We'll get it out ASAP. I am not inclined to recommend that a high school be used as a preschool program.
Along the same lines of that last question, has the community been surveyed about the 6th graders being brought into middle school, and has there been any study of what the social implications of that are?
If one studies middle school research and one looks at the history of our district, the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades have often been together. It is not by any means a revolutionary move. It is, in fact, an enabling device to make this a true middle school circumstance. When Meadow opened up 5, 6, 7, 8 on the second floor, it's had different configurations at different times. Lounsberry had 6, 7, and 8 in it at some point in its history. It's not a revolutionary move. Yes, sir.
I just want to make a comment. We have been talking about this for ever now, and for years, closing the schools, doing this, and this is probably the first plan that I can get fully behind it, and I just want to state that. And we have to move along, and I think with all the service, we have a good team here in the administration. I'm very happy with what they have done in the past few years, and I have spoken out for the people who know me when people have not been doing what I like them to do. And so I think we should put a little bit of trust in them, and I fully support the plan.
Yes, ma'am. You don't need the money.
Was any consideration given to moving the board office to the high school?
You want to put the board office with the preschool
Yes.
for the exact reason that we mentioned before about security, okay? The building has three administrators plus a principal in there. I would hope that people feel that we're paying close attention to those children in terms of the environment. So I'm not going to split the board office from the preschool.
Yeah, it's good, the whole thing would be to have pre-K at the high school. Isn't it worth looking into to see how much it would be for 4 or 5 hours?
Like I said, I'm not inclined to make that recommendation before.
Yeah, if you want to bring the high school kids down to that school to help with that experience, I think that might be an option, you know.
My daughter
Yeah.
went to it, she's 14, and she went to it when she was 3. So there was a program at one time at the high school that did that.
Yes, it was, very
Then the pre-3 Vernon High School, and now the pre-4 is at Walnut Ridge, correct? So we can still have pre-3 Vernon and add pre-4 Vernon.
There's a question over here.
Ma'am, I didn't understand what you said, so.
I have access
I have 2 children in the district. One's in Cedar Mountain, one's in Walnut Ridge. My son in Walnut Ridge is special needs. He's autistic. What about the autistic program? Like, what do you plan to do with that? You only want preschool and pre-K there, correct?
No, the autistic program at Walnut Ridge will remain.
Okay.
The autistic program at Cedar Mountain will remain. The PD program at Rolling Hills will remain. And remain.
What about safety?
What?
What about safety issues?
What about? Please explain, because I have, the autistic classes have 6 kids and 8 adults. I don't.
Well, that's my point exactly. My son.
That's not going to change. Those children have one-on-one aids in their IEPs.
Okay, but my son was hurt twice.
That happens.
In school.
I know. I don't mean to be lighter. Little children fall. I understand. I've seen it happen. I've talked to the aides a million times about the need to be careful, the need to be hand over hand whenever possible. It's hard. It's difficult. I know that.
But what about like bookshelves, things like that, to have guards on them so they can't crack their head and end up with staples in the back of their head?
But if the teachers need something, I don't believe I've ever sent a purchase order request from an autistic class teacher ever back to the teacher. I don't believe I've ever done that.
Just wondering, like a big thing seems to be that Walnut Ridge is being outgrown. So why couldn't pre-K and kindergarten stay at Walnut Ridge and first be divided between Rolling Hills and Cedar Mountain so that there's less change throughout the district?
Because when the grades are split, they're split by neighborhoods. It's not conducive to a holistic circumstance of education. You have difficulty moving kids because of special ed programs. You can't have, you have a first grade special ed program, you can't have 2 of the same programs in 2 different schools. So some kids have to move from one school to the other. They're not in the neighborhood kids. Not something I would recommend. A good thought, but it's not something I can recommend. Yes, ma'am.
Well, all 3 of my children have gone to your preschool program. I think it's like the best program around. I recommend it to anybody. And now they have a library. They're like transitioning to kindergarten. It's a great place for them to start. And you're taking that away by moving kindergarten And when they're done, they have to move to another building that they're not in the kindergarten, and I don't think that's right.
I understand that, but understand this, please. The preschool population of students make up less than half of the kindergarten class. Okay? So there's a transition for some students, but the other students are starting off at kindergarten, and there's no transition circumstance. Plus, I've answered this question in the following way to teaching staff members who asked me, would the preschool students ever be bused over to Cedar Mountain for assembly programs or special activities? And the answer is yes, that's a given. We're not going to take that away from kids.
And will Walnut Ridge have an SCA for those preschool?
I have no idea what, ma'am, I'm removed from the SEAs, I don't know.
Because right now they're including
I don't know,
kindergarten
I
and
can't answer.
My concern is the quality.
Is the quality of the upcoming students that are coming into kindergarten, coming into preschool, and going to a different school. Being at Walnut Ridge, the amount of fundamental resources, I mean, the hallway alone is not just, pretty rainbow. For a lot of kids, it's learning, academics, it's the peaceful playground also, it's fun learning. We're reaching children before they have IEPs, but it teaches them, it really helps us figure out where they are before they move forward. So my question is, there's been thousands and thousands of dollars put into that, and now I feel like the upcoming students, no offense to any of the other schools, if they're age appropriate for their level right now, how much is it going to cost to redo something for the upcoming kindergarten and preschool? I mean, everything from the left and right. And
I testified at the beginning of my talk tonight of visiting firehouses that housed kindergarten classes. I was greatly impressed by what I saw when I came back to Vernon after leaving in 1989 with the building. I give much credit to the people who enabled all of that. But a student can learn in an environment that does not have the fanciness or the extra stuff that's there. And please understand, the Cedar Mountain School, the colors, the way it's laid out, it is a beautiful existing building. It's not like your kids are going to get cheated. I don't understand that. We have to remember what a firehouse room looks like. That's where kids were educated, not just for one year either. Every kindergarten kid was placed in a firehouse or a church basement.
I can tell you, I went to kindergarten in this school, in the Highway Fire Department. I'm 34 years in business in this town. I did 5 in the current education system. So whether they have 10-year-old advanced classes, it's not me, what they learn.
But the money was put into that already, that's why.
True.
So where did the money come from that supported?
Don't have one person talking at a time, please.
Like where, the money for the paint that was done in the hallway, the money for the peaceful garden, where did all that money come from? Who paid that?
SCA's generally did.
The SCA, so then the SCA loses all of that for what?
No. Yes, the SCA would generally pay for things, no doubt about it, and they're great supporters, but no, the district paid for them.
Okay, so how much is the district going to lose by moving the kids that are enjoying that, and that was for them? They're going to lose that by just, for how many preschool classes are now going to be in Walnut Ridge? Just the 4 that are there? You're not adding more preschool, but what are you going to do with the rest of the building that's there?
I think one of the things that maybe...
Don't we need to take into consideration of how much money was put in for the new floor, how much money was put in for the peaceful garden?
Maybe some classes are going to have to move out of Walnut Ridge regardless of what happens. If the board makes no decision and says, forget this plan, one class is moving out of Walnut Ridge. I don't know where we're going to put them yet, but we're not keeping everybody at Walnut Ridge. It has half the students of the high school. That is not a necessity. So something's going to give. So we're giving you a plan.
But you're
We're giving you a plan that addresses a number of issues.
No, I just want to correct that assumption that we're closing a school.
No, you don't want to close the school, that was the whole thing, we weren't gonna close the school right now, we're gonna do this reconfiguration, but at the same time, aren't you closing the school when you're taking out all those kids that are in that rate? You're leaving 4 classrooms for preschool, what are you doing with the rest of it? You're just moving the Board of Ed, and that's basically closing a school for us.
Right, so your feeling is that us,
You went back on your word, that's what my feeling is.
okay, us repositioning the school district allows for us to keep the buildings open. If you close a building, which is a recommendation, I mean, obviously we all feel the same way. This community here is representing their children and the teachers. So we feel the same way. But this community has changed dramatically from the 2000 census to the 2010 census. In 2000, the average age of learning was 35.4 years. 10 years later, the town was 42 years old. We became an older community. When older communities start to voice their opinion, they have opinions too, and they put pressure on Board of Ed, and they put pressure on superintendents. And the reality is, we have lost a lot of children. We're doing everything within our power to keep our buildings open and to keep these buildings viable. Because if you close a building, to reopen it again, you have to go to code, and it costs millions of dollars. So we're doing everything we possibly can to make sure that this district remains vibrant. We do all these great programs, and Mr. D is taking the questions and doing the best we can. This was the plan. This is what we're going to propose to the Board of Ed.
We have a question over here.
Hi, first I want to say I'm not opposed to change. I think change is good. I think the way children are being taught is changing as technology becomes more and more. But I'm a new parent to the district. We actually took our child out of private school and moved her here. And the reason we moved her here is that we love Cedar Mountain. We thought it was a great environment, we thought it was nurturing, we thought it was colorful, we thought everything about it was wonderful. So now you're going to move my child, who's in 3rd grade, who's going to be in 4th grade, I guess to Lounsberry. The hall I saw doesn't look very colorful. So she's still a child. She's not, I understand when she goes to high school, it's not going to be all pretty and roses, and I get that. But 4th and 5th graders are on that cusp where they're still children. I mean, how is that going to be addressed? Is the building going to be left the way it is, or are you going to make it more friendly and welcoming?
I would have to leave that up with the principal. I think we have a very experienced principal staff. If when they have new students of a different age enroll, I believe they will make the proper and necessary changes. We have to finish up here, in the back.
It was brought up about the after-school groups in Lounsberry. And also I'm wondering what is going to happen to the program here at Lounsberry. We've done a lot of conversation tonight about Walnut Ridge and Cedar Mountain. But we are wondering, are we going to keep house model? Are we going to try to treat 4th graders?
We'll have house model on Mountain Grade, yes.
For both grades?
Yes.
Okay, and, you know, you mentioned that the stipends for positions would be looked at. However, when Dr. McKay was here, he encouraged many of us to start other programs that are not supported by stipends. And there are many of us in this building that do work that is not supported by stipend. And if we have that later hour, how much later are we talking? I can't see us doing with 4th and 5th graders staying here till 5 at night. That's a late day for 4th and 5th grade. So that was one of the concerns that's been, just mine and many of us.
The
5th graders do that here now.
Yeah, the bus picks them up for those people that don't have children in Lounsberry, when we run the after-school programs and clubs, which we started a bunch of them.
And may I add that Mrs. Bishop has continued that same encouragement
the students get picked up at 4:45, and they're in 5th grade. So I do understand your concerns, but the clubs have to, the clubs would stay. and we just have to work out the transportation piece. They might be shorter in length to try to keep it, you run that tier after school buses, and we would have to align it with whatever else we were doing, which we do now. So, but the clubs would stay.
Just a little real estate information for you. I don't know who you spoke to, when they told you that a lot, right? Just understand that a lot of those homes were bought by investors.
Yes.
That's not necessarily, they're sold, but they're not sold or built.
We're well aware of that.
Okay, keep that in mind.
In our family engagement meetings, and we're meeting with the real estate people, and we've been giving packets out, not only to real estate agents around here, but also in other counties to try to push for, you know, all the great things that are going on. So, yeah, we've become aware of the flip and what's going on with that.
Right, but I'm saying, they said that, you know, the families at homes are selling,
Right.
they are, they are.
But we are seeing, you know, we're at 222, so we are seeing an uptick. We had as low as 188 in one kindergarten class a couple years ago, and it's now 118 and 122, so there is an uptick.
Is there anyone who hasn't asked a question yet would like a chance to finish up?
I think Mr. DeCosta does in the back. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't really have a question, it's just my own personal opinion. I have a fourth grader, and will fourth grade and fifth grade in Lounsberry Hollow be considered a middle school? Because I don't think fourth grade is middle school.
Right, it's not a movie.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. DiBenedetto.
Yes, sir.
On his history, and the history, one thing that happened here is that we had a grade here that moved out this building over to Glen Meadow in one weekend. So that has happened in the past. They've done it. Secondly, 208, which started out in Franklin, down 287, was supposed to end here, right here in Warwick, between Vernon and Warwick. 208, 4-lane highway. At any time, this community could change, and you're going to need your schools. And I applaud you for trying to keep them open. But all you need to do, Google 208 and see where it was done, between Warwick and Vernon.
Paul, there are examples, and they're in all educational journals, about school systems that have sold schools, right? And I'm not saying that we would be able to, but, you know, Wayne sold their middle school, Anthony Wayne, the one on Valley Road. 10 years later, the boom started again, or the cycle continued again. The new middle school that they had to build was $60 million. What we're trying to do is keep our buildings open, but also address the fact that we have diminished enrollment and we have pressure from other parts of the community who are saying, you know, this is an expensive situation.
Thank you for doing it.
Thanks, sir. Last question.
It's not a question, I just want to say something, the fear here, that I think that it really comes down to the four walls that your child's going to be taught in, and just have a little bit of like faith and trust in the system that it's a really good education, you know, program here. I think, you know, go up and come, and I think the whole thing is beautiful and wonderful, but I think it comes down to where they're going to be taught, so they're taught why. I think it's going to be, you know, you're going to see success either way. You know, the school are really in.
Yes, ma'am.
This year's kindergartners started out at Walnut Ridge, first year. Then you're going to take them and move them over to Cedar Mountain for first grade.
Okay.
Then you're going to take them for second grade and move them to Rolling Hills. And they've gone to 3 schools in 3 years. Their first 3 years
That
of
happens when you make a
education, they're going to
reconfiguration,
preschool.
that happens sometimes. It's not great, but I understand that, but it happens. Last question here.
What happens when the enrollment and stuff goes up in a year or 2 from now, and we have
You
too
can't
many
plan on,
kids?
there's no evidence that enrollment is going to go up in years from
What
now.
happens
We're looking to
when
level
Glen
off.
Meadow is now overpopulated with 6th, 7th, and 8th in it? Do we now move our 8th graders then into the high school
I have
like
no
the
intention of
original plan
recommending that.
was?
That'll
and
be
you
for the
guys
next
said you were
superintendent.
not going to do?
Next superintendent will make that decision. And I think that's taking a lot.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.